All right, here we are at Boker, and Ken is going to explain to us the story behind the Tiger Damask knives and the Damask series of knives.
Kenton Green, I'm the new regional sales director for Boker USA. Part of what I've done over the past 7 years is develop new project ideas with Boker on top of my sales duties and account responsibilities. But one thing I'm particularly interested in is history. And Boker has a lot of history with knives, a lot of war history as well. Now what we came up with was, the first series was the Sherman tank, which is in combination with in collaboration with the Americans of Wartime Museum in Knoxville, Virginia. That gave way to development of future projects based off of popularity, based off of how well it was received by the public. We came out with the Tiger I Damascus knife. Now, this knife is particularly interesting because there were only, say, 1,400 Tiger I's built for the war. Our Tiger actually came part of Otto Carius's 502nd Panzer Division. Now that tank was responsible for Stalingrad, the Battle of Kursk. It was also part of Otto Carius's retreat to the Baltic. This particular tank that we have, the material that we have, was recovered from the Battle of Latvia City. Now, for instance, the pieces that we have that we were recovered were part of the retreat effort. Now the retreat effort was in plan to have our tank cover a crossroad, slow the advance of the Russian military while the Germans could retreat back to the Baltic Sea. After this tank was sacrificed, I guess you could say, you can tell by the material that we have recovered that is certified. It's processed through local curators in Latvia City. They in turn deem that the product is not something that they want to keep for their museum, so we're allowed to have it at that point. So it is certified material. This particular piece I have right here in front of me is just a sliver, but you can tell the damage that was received from a T-34 that struck it in the turret. This is the commander's plate that he would stand on when he stood his head out the cupola. Part of that material, part of the armor package, part of the barrel pieces or whatnot were in turn tested, processed, and broken down by Chad Nichols down in Mississippi from Nichols Damascus, where he takes our ideas, takes what we're looking for, and develops it into the Damascus blade. Now the blade is actually two-prong. You have a underlying tank track pattern, and then the splotches that you'll see will actually mimic the camouflage pattern that each tank was allowed to have, and our particular tank had.
That's cool.
The burlap micarta is pretty much a primer color that the tanks left the factory as. So we determined that gray was a good color for us. It's a good, strong German color. And then almost the corduroy or raised feeling here is to mimic the Zimmerit coating. Now the overall design of the knife was to mimic the tank just like we did for the Sherman, right. The outline of the knife. We're kind of enjoying the fact of adding Easter eggs into these new projects, and we like for people to even be able to quickly figure it out, quickly identify what we're doing. These are available now. We have not really done a end run. That'll happen when we just run out of material. But the story is just, we're recycling material. This was recovered from a ravine outside of the city. The locals at the end of the war were responsible for burial of the dead, cleaning up of the mess, basically, rebuilding the roads, and part of that was taking each tank or each war machine, breaking it down. So in essence, this is garbage to the locals at the time, in the early 50s when they were responsible for cleaning it up. So as this came over the United States, we started adding more projects to it. Again, the tank series is just a beginning project for us. We're going to be moving into aviation series
with the Messerschmitt.
with the Messerschmitt BF 109. We named it the ME 109 for trademark reasons. Both names are correct.
Okay.
Now, that particular plane was interesting because it was lost in the Battle of Britain, summer of 1940. Shot down by a Supermarine Spitfire outside of Ashford of Kent, which is a farming community between London and the Channel. The group that I worked with recovered part of the plane, recovered pieces from the plane. So since there isn't much real usable steel for us in a plane, we had to get real creative, dig a little bit deeper inside the engine. So we're using a lot of the armament that was surrounding the pilot, who did survive. We don't use grave material.
Right.
He did survive. He was able to eject out of the aircraft before it crashed. So we take the prop, the drive prop, parts of the engine, some pieces of the ailerons and whatnot. We also blended that in to make the Messerschmitt series that's coming out in September.
Very cool. Looking forward to seeing it.
It's coming. It's going to be a great addition for us, but we do have some super secrets that we're going to start introducing. I know a lot of people on the internet from SHOT Shows saw that we were going to do a T-34. We are. It's not a secret, but we're holding off for obvious reasons. We do have the material, but it's just everything of that size on hold. Yeah, just to make sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
It's great. Customers come into our store and they've looked at the Sherman, they looked at the Tiger, and I only know part of the story. I mean, I know the obvious part.
Right.
But thanks for giving us the history and the actual backstory on it, because that gives me a little more to feed.
Exactly. That's the fun part of this whole project. And again, if you're a history buff, if you're novice, if you just want to see history repurposed,
Right.
this is recycled. Otherwise this would be in a scrapyard being made into cans or something. Something nobody wouldn't even know what it was.
Right.
But we're taking it, repurposing material from the time and using it for good reason. History's not taught anymore, so we'd like to bring that back.
And it's a tangible piece of history.
Exactly. It was pivotal to the war. It was pivotal to things. It has nothing to do with Nazis. It has nothing to do with Axis and Allies. It's you're not going to erase history. We're going to keep promoting history from all fronts.
As long as we remember our history, we don't repeat it.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Ken. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.